It's a little awkward. I'm Chair Margolis, and I'll be moderating this evening. We have a panel of folks who will be speaking with you about the Metuchen Development Alliance. And this is a continuation of what we did last Tuesday in the same council chambers, which we really didn't take you back at tonight. So thank you for hooking it over here. How many people were here last Tuesday? Oh, quite a few. Terrific. Thank you for coming back, and hope you stay involved. Can everybody see? Oops. We've had lots of difficulties getting back over here, so bear with us. Here we go. So the reason we're here today is to answer these questions. Why? Why are we going to propose a Metuchen Development Alliance now? Many of you, I'm sure, have been familiar with other attempts to do this kind of stuff. How many other people have been involved with a previous attempt to do something to revitalize downtown? Johnny? Angela, a few other people?
Oh, yeah.
Chris? But why do it now? Do it now, we look around at downtown. What do we see downtown? What do we see downtown?
Empty stores.
Empty stores. What else do we see?
Buildings.
What?
Restaurants.
Snow. That's pretty right now. What else?
Mostly restaurants.
Mostly restaurants. Right. Nail salons. Right. What kind of restaurants mostly? Pizzerias. Anybody notice they have a second Asian fusion opening up where Mimi's used to be? Where did that happen? Right? That's what we see. Do you like it? I dislike it. And that's why there are a group of people that come together to form the Metuchen Development Alliance, is to do something about what is happening to our downtown. So we want to tell you about that and about the Alliance. We want to tell you about what. What would a Metuchen revitalization group look like? One that's looking to revitalize the downtown and maintain its historic character. We want to go over the structure of it, exactly what it looks like, and the opportunities and the need for volunteers. This organization is powered through volunteers, and we're going to show you how that happens. How? We're going to tell you about how it works, because it has to be funded, and that's always a touchy subject. So we want to go into the details of how something like this is paid for. And finally, we want to go over the next steps, so that you are completely clear exactly where we are. Right now, this is a proposed organization. So next slide, please. So, it is a volunteer, not-for-profit organization, proposed, not formed yet. It's separate from municipal government, which is quite deliberate. It's formed under the auspices of the Main Street organization, which is New Jersey Main Street organization, which is part of the Main Street America organization, which is part of the Historic Trust, National Trust for Historic Preservation. Now, the reason this is important, and I went over this last Tuesday because it's worth it to say it again, particularly for the people who aren't here. The National Trust, back in the late 70s, early 80s, when we had a recession, and there was a lot of depression and difficulty in small town America, unemployment, distressed communities, decided that they wanted to find a way to protect historic sites while revitalizing downtown areas. Because at that time, remember that's when the malls came in? Lots of things were just wiped out of historic nature. So the original intent was to protect history and culture of communities while revitalizing them. So what they did, they decided they would have this grand experiment, and they funded it from 5 agencies, which included the Department of Housing, the Small Business Administration, the Department of Transportation, the National Endowment for the Arts, the Economic Development Authority. And so they said, well, we will fund a full-time executive director and a part-time administrator to work with communities to see what we can learn. And we put out a national bid. 60 or 70 communities responded. And they selected 3 towns, small towns, like 13,000 to 50,000 people, like our kind of town, on the smaller side. And the criteria for winning this award, to have this experiment done in our community, was you have to have an alliance within the community of municipal government support, private support, volunteer support, an enthusiastic community that would really come together. And so 3 small towns were selected. 3 towns, the experiment went on for 3 years. At the end of it, they found they had reduced vacancy rates. They had a more beautiful downtown. It was getting to look more clean and prettier. The historic buildings were being slowly brought back and maintained. And it was working because they were experimenting with a formula. Then they said, well, if this will work in small town America, will this work in a larger municipality, like a community of 500,000, max of 500,000? So they did the same thing, went out for bid, municipalities responded, same criteria. You have to have the alliance of the public-private partnership, the volunteers, the community organizations coming together for the same thing, which is make our town better. And they worked to set up business improvement districts where they could focus on economic revitalization and historic preservation. Same thing happened. 3 years, vacancy rates are down, historic preservation is continuing, places are safer. It worked. And then they said, will this work in cities? Same thing. National bid, cities apply, same criteria, same single executive director, same part-time assistant, same formula, and we're going to tell you what that formula is with this panel that we have in just a few minutes. And the same thing happened. So what we are trying to do here is model on that formula. It's not a white sheet of paper. It's something that has worked in over 2,000 municipalities. Sometimes it fails, and it has failed. And it fails when there's not true openness, true transparency, and true cooperation across the community organizations. That's when it fails. It doesn't fail when that's present, because that's the cushion. So we want to walk through mechanically exactly what this looks like, and exactly where each of you can fit into it, because each of you really need to be a part of it. So that's the context. We go on to the next one. Let's talk about what a business improvement district is. It is, and you saw the posters out here. Did you notice when you walked in, there were posters, and there was a defined business district. It was all like in red, and we'll show this on the screen a little bit. It's authorized by state law, and it's created by ordinance from the borough government. That ordinance will be proposed at a March meeting, and following that will be a public hearing, and then there will be a voting on it. The business improvement district is supported by a management development authority, or alliance, which in turn leverages community resources, the garden club, the YMCA, the local church, the youth groups, to come together to help in this effort. The funding source for the MDA, the Metuchen Development Alliance, comes from an assessment on commercial property within the business district. Not from residents, not outside the district, only within the Main Street Business District. And we'll go into that formula in that detail in just a moment as well. Can you have the next slide? So what about the Chamber of Commerce? The poor Chamber of Commerce, right? When we first started these discussions, that came up consistently. What about the Chamber of Commerce? It'll go away, right? No, it's not going to go away. The Chamber of Commerce was a partner in the application to the New Jersey Main Street Organization for us to become associate members of that group, so we could start a learning journey, so we could start a process of understanding, were we a candidate to do this? Could we do this? This was very much always supported, a very integral part of what the Chamber of Commerce wanted to happen. 6 directors from the Chamber of Commerce board have been part of the stakeholder group, and let me introduce them to you now. I'll get out of the way to do that. They include Joe Cassio, General Manager of the New Jersey Convention Center, Nelson Lee, Farmers Market. Just stand up, Nelson. There you are. Dottie Glenville, President of the Chamber. Rich Hockey, Vice President of the Chamber. Deborah Zupan, American Heat Fair Trade. And me. So we have been part of this process for the last, how many months? 10 months, right? So the Chamber endorses it, is a partner with it, and is very much hoping that it will succeed. The Chamber is an advocate for all Metuchen area businesses in the district and outside the district, and on the perimeters of Metuchen. So it's a little different, and some of what we do in the Chamber will overlap with the MDA. Fine. It's a volunteer-run membership organization. And we'll continue to run events that drive foot traffic, B2B networking, membership training and development, which is new. There's a whole new education series for small business owners, ranging from, you can watch one in February, personal business financial planning. We have another one coming up in April, how to open a business. I think that's a novel thought. We have a lot of family-centered businesses that might want us to turn into brick and mortar, or maybe they just want to be online. How do you open it up? That's what the kind of training the Chamber will be doing. So the Chamber will not only continue to be a voice, it'll be a stronger voice. And part because it needs to up its game, because Metuchen's in trouble. And we all need to pull together. And the Chamber of Commerce will be a very strong advocate and voice for business. Yes, sir? So the Metuchen Development Alliance is not new, is the point I'm trying to make. It's part of Main Street, New Jersey, which is part of Main Street America, which is a subsidiary of the National Trust for Historic Preservation. We're networked already to 2,000 municipalities and to a national database base and data center. There's 25 years of experience with this, and we are directly supported by Main Street, New Jersey with free services. We already have been benefiting from technical assistance, from training. Many of us have been to training programs throughout the state. They are free, they're excellent, and they're open to any volunteer within the Metuchen Development Alliance once it's up and running. And so there's very few organizations that are set up to actually train their volunteers. And this is one that can do that because of our membership in the New Jersey Main Street organization. Let me introduce the other stakeholders. They include Eric Berger, who's on our panel. He is the principal of U.S. Real Estate Holdings and Acquisitions. Rishar Malala, owner of Buddha's Law, over here. Nancy Zerbe, Historic Preservation Committee. Grace Shapley, standing up in the corner there. Arts Council, Chris Crane on our panel. Jay Muldoon, who is skiing on vacation. And Allison and Sarah, who's a member of council.
It's not skiing on vacation.
He's not in Florida, no.
No, he's in Colorado.
Is in
Skiing?
Yeah, I said I'm not skiing on vacation.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so next slide, please. We spent 8 months as students, sort of like drinking from a fire hose. Kind of reminded me of being back in college when we had a study group, and we had a cram, that kind of thing. Because we had to read, we had to research, we had to talk to people. We talked to 7 municipalities in depth, visited them. Many of their executive directors of their downtown organizations came to us, not once, not twice, sometimes 3 times. They were great teachers, and we did that through March and October. In October, we started a series of communication sessions. First with the council, bringing them up to date. Next with the chamber board, bringing them up to date. And then a series of meetings with landlords and business owners, the form we had last Tuesday and today next 8. So we've been doing our best to get the word out. On Friday night, I guess, the website went up with all of its kinks, as websites have them, and we have a Facebook page. In an attempt to continue the communication so that after this meeting, we have a way of dialoguing with each other. We also, we talked to 7 different municipalities. They included, could you go to the next one, please? Cranford, Howells Park, Maplewood, Red Bank, Somerville, South Orange, and Montclair. Do you remember Montclair 10, 15 years ago? Anybody remember Montclair 10 or 15 years ago? It was a pretty depressed place, high vacancy rate. It was not attractive. It started its business improvement district and its Main Street Development Organization in 2002. And in 2015, last year, it won the top award for America's Best Improvement District. And it did that for 15 years, which is about how long it takes to look like a business district has in Montclair. Now, last Tuesday, we had people from Somerville and Highland Park here. We don't have that, but we do have a video of Montclair that tells the story of their business district and what happened, how they grew, and where they are now, and we'd like to show it to you now.
We're going to do it a little bit differently than we thought we would.
People can come and have dinner, they can shop, they can just enjoy their afternoon walking around. There's a lot to do. We've got museums, movie theaters, shops, restaurants, all sorts of stuff you can do.
We work closely with New Jersey Main Street, National Main Street, to apply the four-point approach to everything downtown. And frankly, we could not be happier. Art institutions are really key for Montclair Center. You have the Walmart Theater, you have the Montclair Arts Center, then you have Montclair Center being effectively the restaurant capital of New Jersey. We have 85 fine dining establishments representing 16 different cuisines. One of the more famous is right behind me is Ravens.
We've just sort of grown up with the town in a way. We've been here for 25 years. There are so many ethnic restaurants represented, and they're good ones.
In terms of diversity, quality, range, and creativity, Montclair Center's restaurant niche is extremely strong.
It's exciting. There's always something to do.
We've been voted for the last few years as New Jersey's favorite downtown arts district. And by promoting these strengths, arts, we're able to piggyback on that image to help and boost residents, office, and retail. Montclair Center has been really excellent at addressing the quality of life issues initially, and then growing towards business recruitment and business retention.
The Montclair bid was extremely welcoming to us.
From an exposure standpoint, we get exposure because of the events that they host. And they benefit because we bring energy, we bring a new life into town.
People are coming to Montclair. I was started here in 1988. Back then, this area was a little rough, a lot of crime. You would rarely see people walking around at night. The downtown was largely neglected. There were piles of trash, and the vacancy rate in the 1990s was approximately 50%. Since then, vacancy is down to about 10%. They've been able to take this downtown from being left for dead to what it is today. Now it's just like New York City. It's Friday night, Saturday night, and the restaurants are open. We even stay open till like 11, 12 o'clock at night on a Friday. Fantastic. Once we got Main Street Religion, we found that the simultaneous application of organization, design, economic restructuring, and PR magnified our results. The culture of Montclair Center is to adaptively reuse, where possible, the historic fabric of the district and then to promote the heck out of it. We're blessed with several landlords who recognize the creative economy.
If you have creative office space available, you are going to attract a creative business class. This beautifully architecturally designed building was built in 1926.
They saved this historic church and they gave it an office function that was award-winning in the state of New Jersey.
The church was on the market. They decided to sell. We approached the board and said, you know what? Why don't you stay in your home of 85 years? We'll build you a new sanctuary and we'll turn the rest of it into boutique office space, and off we went.
Pretty much every building in the downtown is a mixed-use building. Residential demand for downtown Montclair is high.
So you live upstairs from the Walmart Theater?
In the past 3 months, as I was looking for a place, my primary destination was to look for somewhere that I can legitimately skate to work and walk to work with a coffee in hand.
Downtowns are living, organic, breathing things. There's a constant reinvention. And that's part of the fun. There's always something fresh and different.
You can always hope high, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to ask you to listen to our three folks from the panel to give you more information. And then we want to end this in a good chunk of time, 45 minutes or an hour, with questions and answers. And we hope you have a lot of questions and answers. Okay? So Chris is going to take us through how does a Main Street organization work following the formula from Main Street America?
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming tonight. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Chris Crane. I published the Presbyterian. That was a great video that we just saw. A lot of it looked like Metuchen. Metuchen with a lot of work put into it, a lot of community engagement. So we're going to talk a little bit tonight about how this organization is put together, how it works, To the gentleman that you saw in that video, Jeff Bueller, who is the director of Main Street, New Jersey, who was a terrific help to us, a sounding board for every possible question that we had. And then Luther Flurry, who is a shoes on the ground, boots on the ground kind of person, was also a terrific help for us to pick his brain. Of the best practices for a successful downtown management organization is an independent, nonprofit downtown management organization with a full-time executive director. It also happens to be a criteria of being a full member in Main Street, New Jersey, is to have a full-time executive director, and it's crucial to the success of the organization. You need someone who will care day-to-day, in and out, management of the district, in this case, the central business district. Another best practice is the strong support from local government. You may or may not be aware of the fact that the Borough of Metuchen, the administration, council members are fully behind this concept. They will be backing it up with their own dollars to help get this project off the ground, to help maintain this project, at least in the short term. So it's a perfect example of putting your money where your mouth is. Thirdly, is an active, engaged, appreciated committee volunteers. And I probably can't stress this point strongly enough. This Metuchen Downtown Alliance, it's crucial that we have community engagement. Metuchen is famous and has a long history of people devoting their time, talent, and dedication to a myriad of projects throughout town. Many of you folks sitting here tonight know exactly what I'm talking about because you were involved in those projects. So it is you, the business owners, the residents, the property owners, it is your time, your talent, your engagement that will make this a success. This is not a success that will happen tomorrow or 6 months from now, or maybe not even 12 months from now. This is a dedicated effort, and make no mistake about it, you will be an integral part of it, and that is key. Diversified funding sources. I mentioned a moment ago that the borough is putting its money where its mouth is by helping stake this project, get it off the ground, to get it going. A business improvement district, which is a funding vehicle for this, and some other sources such as grants, donations, possible memberships. The organization has a series of, which I'll get into in a moment, a series of volunteer boards representing the different stakeholder groups, the property owners, the business owners, people who live in Metuchen. There are the 4 different committees that I won't get to in a moment. Ongoing open communications and transparency. I think that most of you have seen thus far that we have made a Herculean effort to try to get as much information out to you as possible. When we were at a point where we could share information with you, we spent an awful lot of time, as Jan mentioned, 9 months gathering a lot of information. The different EDs, the different executive directors from other communities were fabulous with sharing what worked, what didn't work, what their next steps are, and so on. A full member of the Main Street, New Jersey program. This is key. We're currently an associate member, which, as Jan mentioned, allows us to take advantage of training, technical advice, technical expertise to get more of that as a full member of the Main Street, New Jersey program. And as I mentioned a moment ago, business and municipal government as the primary funding sources. Can I have the next slide? So this is an organizational structure. I'm going to walk you through it as to what a typical downtown management organization looks like. And if you start from the top, you'll see that there is representation on a board of directors from across the community. You have property owners, you have business owners, the Chamber of Commerce, borough government, parking authority, residents, the Arts Council. The largest numbers, it's a board of 13 voting members with 2 non-voting members. The largest percentage of those members would be property owners and business owners. One thing I'd like to interject here, which is not in here, is that everybody who has a business or owns property in the district is a member of the district and has a voice and has a vote in the workings of the downtown management organization. No one property owner, whether they own one property or own 6 properties, everybody gets one vote. Everybody has an equal voice. Below that, you see the executive director and part-time staff. They answer directly to the board of directors, which again are all of you in the community. It's the only professional staff that the management organization has. And below that, we have the volunteer organizations that I was referring to. Organization, promotion, design, and economic vitality. So, in organization, you see volunteer development. That is finding out what your talents are, what you're good at, and how we can best utilize them for the betterment of the management organization. Communications and PR, education, and fundraising. Promotion, develop a marketing strategy. Image development. How do we position Metuchen in the market to capitalize on current and emerging trends? Retail promotions, adding to what we may already have. Special events, adding to what we may already have, in addition to festivals. Design deals largely with the district at large, whether it's capital improvements to sidewalks and curbing, signage, specific image building, branding items such as banners or flags, building improvements. One of the advantages that we'll have as a business improvement district, as a downtown management organization, is that there are low-interest loans, very low-interest loans available to businesses and property owners to be able to improve their facades. A better deal than you might be able to get from a large commercial bank. And then design education. You're busy running your business. You may not necessarily know the best way how to portray your image. There'll be a lot of help in that respect to be able to help you raise your game, so to speak, and become more attractive to the community. Economic vitality is market information, knowing who your market is and how you're going to market to them. Business retention, making sure that the businesses that are in town stay in town. What can be done to make sure that your business is healthy, how we can help you. Business recruitment. One thing that has not been done very much in the past 20 years of Metuchen is selling Metuchen. I think we all know that Metuchen is a pretty special place. And so, what makes us special has gotten even better in the past decade. So I think it's time that we spend a lot more effort going out and telling as many prospective complementary businesses as possible what a great place this is and why you should come and join us. Next one, please. I'm sorry, before you go. At the bottom, for volunteer committee power of the organization. I said that a moment ago. It is crucial that the volunteer commitment and participation is what's going to lead to the success of a downtown management organization. Okay, thanks. So what can you expect of the day of the life of an executive director? Well, in our conversations with the executive directors that we spoke to, they spend a lot of time out on the streets, in the stores, in the businesses, finding out what's happening. What's great, what's not so great. What's bothering you, how can I fix it? Match potential businesses with landlords. I spoke with that a moment ago about business recruitment. Somebody has an interest in Metuchen, This is the first place that they might go. The executive director might say, wow, you want that kind of space and you want this kind of traffic? I think I have the right place for you. And they create the conduit to a property owner and get the ball rolling, so to speak. Actively recruit complementary businesses, meet with business owners, manage the marketing and branding. Help existing businesses by connecting them to training and events. And again, we're not all excellent at everything. We can all use some help, and one of the key things that the downtown management organizations will do to get you that help to be able to improve your business. Excuse me. Develop and manage social media presence for downtown Metuchen. Become a business consultant to new business. In my job as a publisher, and somebody who has a lot of experience in marketing, I wind up being a consultant to a lot of people. I'm always amazed at people who come in. Develop joint integrated professional marketing and promotions, part of the image branding. You go across a whole number of platforms, whether it's print, whether it's digital, whether radio, television, traditional and emerging and social outlets. Create positive public relations and brand image for Metuchen. Again, we all know what a great place Metuchen is. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. But now we're going to tell the rest of the world, or at least the rest of New Jersey, what a great place Metuchen is and why you should be here. One of the benefits of the downtown management organization is through all this effort, you lower vacancy rates. And not only do you lower vacancy rates in retail locations, but it's been demonstrated in communities like Somerville, Red Bank, and the others that we examined, that the attendant office space, their tenancy rates went up dramatically as well. So while an office building, second, third floor, may not necessarily think that they would derive a lot of the benefits of downtown management organization. It's been proven that that's actually not the case. That if you've got vacancies, the increase in business, the increase in traffic actually increases office tenancy. I mentioned a moment ago about creating new events, festivals, seasonal sales, foot traffic, improving, bringing in recent diverse complementary businesses that will help the existing businesses that we have here, so that we don't have a half a dozen of the same businesses competing with each other for the same type of thing, but other businesses which will create more depth and dimension to what Metuchen has to offer as a business district. As a result of that effort, is that you improve the bottom line, you improve the revenues of the existing businesses in town, just by virtue of the fact that all this effort has been done. Make Metuchen a more vibrant, desirable destination for living, shopping, dining, and visiting. And then act as an advocate and a voice for the district. Again, these are all items that the executive director and the district will do for the businesses in Metuchen, whether they're existing businesses, whether they're new businesses coming in, is be that advocate for your bottom line. So, for property owners, the benefit. I mentioned a moment ago about how the executive director of the Downtown Alliance will connect potential tenants with landlords and vacant properties. Again, including new businesses for the district. I'm sorry if this sounds a little redundant. Becomes a central contact point for businesses interested in locating in Metuchen. Again, that one-stop place to go, where we'll have the answers for people who want to know all about Metuchen and locate here. Retain and strengthen existing tenants. Again, this is key because there are a lot of people who have already invested in Metuchen, and part of this, half of this job is to make sure that those people are healthy and stay here. And then facilitate interaction with the local government, and I mentioned that a moment ago.
So, thank you, Chris. You've heard about the why, and you've heard about the what. Now, we're going to talk about how. How are we going to pay for this? That's the magic question. And Eric is principal at U.S. Real Estate Holdings and Acquisitions, a landlord here in town, and he works also as a landlord in Somerville and works closely with the bid there as well. So he's going to tell us about the how.
Well, I'm going to start with where first. Where is this?
Where and how.
Okay. So yes, I have 5 buildings in the district. I have a tremendous stake in this, and I want to make sure that this works. And obviously, it's not just one person; it's a whole community to make this work. So the question is, where? What are we talking about? There's a blow up outside. It's a little bit tougher to see up on the screen, but this is Amboy Avenue down here. This is Main Street. The Main Street will go all the way up to Middlesex Avenue, including the Bell Telephone Building and the businesses just north of Middlesex Avenue, coming down Middlesex, including the sports complex, including the Whole Foods, including the Woodmont development, new apartments are going in the Pearl Street parking lot. It also includes the plaza, which is going to be a great place for programming for the Metuchen Downtown Alliance. It also includes the Forum Theater. You saw in Montclair how that's a central part of their district and should be a central part of our district. And to revitalize that theater and have it as a draw to bring people into Metuchen and to service the community with cultural events. The map is approximate. Out in the lobby, we also have a list of all the exact block and lots. So particularly if your property is on the edge of the district, take a look at the block and lot list to see whether or not you're in the district or not in the district. So again, this describes in words. The important point is that over time, it can be adjusted. It gets set initially by the Borough Council, and in the future, it can expand, it can contract. The beauty of it is it will adjust to the needs of the community. So the initial budget, projected budget is $275,000 a year. And the first question is, okay, what are you going to spend all this money on? About half of it goes for staffing, marketing, recruitment, retention, volunteer management, office rental, and utilities. The staffing, though, is a payroll number, but the executive director, as you saw from a previous slide, does a whole number of things. So while, for instance, there's only 5% of the budget going for recruitment and retention and marketing, in reality, a big part of the time spent by the executive directors for those purposes is just not broken out in that way. Maintenance and cleaning about 10%, holiday decorations a small percentage, plantings and greeneries about 5%, and then capital improvements about a quarter of the budget. And that's to bring real improvement to the district and make it a better place for people to live and shop and operate their businesses. So why $275,000? Why not $2 million or $2,000? We talked to people from other districts, and we initially were talking about a much lower number. And they said, you can't do anything with that number. You're going to spend all of your budget on just overhead, on salaries, on utilities, on rent. It didn't make any sense, they said, to go through all this effort and then have no money. And one of the chamber does a wonderful job, but they can't get the money together to do some of the projects that this can do because it's a volunteer organization. So there's a freeloader effect. In this case, there will not be a freeloader effect. Everybody will chip in, and there'll be enough money to do some really spectacular stuff. But we also talked to some landlords, including Woodmont, who said, we're in other communities. With a budget that we were originally proposing, you can't do anything. It's going to be a waste of everybody's time. So in order to make a real difference, this is the amount of money we believe that we need. So where's the money coming from? This chart, I'm going to explain it because, again, probably a little bit tough to see on the slide. The blue is the amount coming from the municipal government, and the orange is the amount from the BID assessment. So for 2016, it's only half a year, so the budget is $150,000. That entire amount is provided by borough government from the sale of the Pearl Street lot. This is our proposal. This has not been approved by the borough as of yet. There's no assessment at all for 2016. For 2017, the borough government again would put in $150,000, and then it'd be $125,000 approximately coming from the BID assessment. In 2018, the numbers would flip by 25,000, and that would continue until 2020, when it would be 75,000 from borough government and 200,000 from the BID assessment. In addition to these are the stable funding sources. In addition, it's anticipated there will be money coming from Municipal Parking Authority, from the fundraising events, from grants, and from sponsorships. There will also be some events which will be break even. If you have, for instance, like a farmer's market, it may make a small amount of money or break even, so that wouldn't be a budget item per se. And this breaks it down in another form. Again, the amount coming from the borough initially is $150,000, makes it down to $75,000. The amount coming starting in 2017, about $125,000, going up to $200,000 as the organization gets off the ground, and also not to hit everybody initially with a full assessment. So to raise $200,000, the rate would be at 5% of the the real estate taxes for the district. So for the 2020 amount, that's how you do it, 5%. If you're talking about the amount for 2017, it would be 3.2%. So this comes out to about 0.11% of fair market value, which is a little bit less than some other towns. 0.12% in Westfield, about 0.15% in Montclair, about 0.16% in Somerville. And again, the rate would go up 0.6% per year, 3.2% going up to ultimately 5% in 2020. So let's take an example. If you had a 4,000 square foot building, this is an actual assessment of a building in Metuchen that's assessed for $275,000 and has taxes of $15,500 per year. So you just simply take $15,500, multiply it by 3.2%, and we did it by the month, so that would come about $41 per month for the building in 2017. By 2020, it would be about $65 per month. Now, most commercial leases pass through the taxes, some portion of the taxes to a tenant, usually done on the basis of square footage. So if someone has 10% of the building, they pay 10% of the taxes. If they have 50% of the building, they pay 50% of the taxes. So we used a normal sized retail space of 1,200 square feet, and which would be 30% of our 4,000 square foot building. So you would take the $41 and multiply it by 30%. That gives you $12 per month for 2017. Same thing, $65 per month for the whole building. You multiply it by 30% in 2020, and you're at about $19 per month for the assessment on the merchant. But the way it's done is that the owner pays the taxes, the merchant reimburses, and that's a matter of lease between landlord and merchant as to how the reimbursement works.
Okay,
So the next steps, Joe's going to cover, and then we're going to follow that with, I hope, a very robust Q&A.
Welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming out. Appreciate it. Know it's a lot of information, but hopefully we get through this. We'll have some good time for question and answer. I'm a 17-year resident of Metuchen, living here with my wife and 2 daughters. We love the town. We love the downtown. We love walking everywhere. I run the New Jersey Convention and Exposition Center. It's in Edison, about 5 miles or so from here. We bring about 700,000–800,000 people a year into the area. And I don't think anything pleases me more than when we refer and send clients and their clients to town for restaurants and whatnot. They come back with raving reviews about our beautiful little downtown. So, that's something I think we all should cherish. And I mean, we do that with transient business, people from all over the world, not normally visiting our area. So it's a really nice thing to see. So what are the processes we have going forward? First step is going to be forming our organization, which we're in the midst of doing. It'll be a 501c1 nonprofit, registered with the state of New Jersey, forming our board of directors and improving the bylaws. In the coming weeks, on February 24th, we have a meeting with the property owners within the district. The March meeting, we are presenting our proposal to the mayor and the Borough Council, which will then introduce an ordinance to establish the bid. And at that time, we'll be holding a public hearing, which again, I would encourage you all to come out to, as I feel that it's in everyone's best interest to really be heard. Over the next 6 months or so, looking at the summer of 16, our goal is to hire an executive director, secure office space, and open for business. So again, I'll echo Chris Crane. I think he hit the nail on the head. I think the continuation in the talk here is most important. You can visit our website, which was just put up, downtownmetuchen.org. If you can, like us on Facebook, and obviously email us with any comments, questions after the fact. I know we will be uploading the video and our fact sheet after this is through in the next day or so, so you'll have all of this to go back on. Like I said, the work here is far from done. A lot of information to digest, but I hope this excites you all about the potential future we have. Our research has shown that this endeavor does work, but the only way it works is really with the volunteers and the community involved with it. One thing I'll leave you with, friends of mine and clients again always ask, well, what do you love so much about Metuchen? Why are you always talking about the downtown? I think the most important thing I find is that this is a we community, it's not a me community.
In the red list.
Hi, my name is Elaine Edgecombe. I've been a resident for, I guess, over 30 years now, and I think it's all a great idea. My question is, what are the specific roles that you're looking for volunteers for? What do you envision volunteers being used for, and where are you most in need?
Good question. Where's Chris?
Turn on the lights.
Turn on the lights. Okay, I'll answer that question.
Was that for me?
The volunteers and the
The 4 committees.
4 committees.
Our question is, where do we need volunteers? We need them on the 4 committees.
We need them on the 4 committees, so.
Yeah, but specifically my question is, okay, so you're on economic vitality. What does that mean for a volunteer from the community? Or you're on, I can envision design as you want people with artistic talents. And I envision promotion. It'd be great to have people who have marketing experience and PR experience. But what specifically are we looking for maybe under the other committees, and where do you really see citizen volunteers as opposed to business owner volunteers or others?
Your talent and dedication.
Can I answer that question too?
Yep.
So being part of the National Main Street program is they actually have guidebooks about how to run volunteer committees with very discrete jobs and tasks. So let's say there is a restaurant week and there's a promotion committee, that would be the marketing committee, right? So the marketing committee, you might have people who only want to give a little bit of time that year to restaurant week and have a very discrete job to send out press releases, to try to recruit restaurants, to do all of that on the groundwork and support the executive director in their day-to-day work. Let's say there's the Economic Vitality Committee, and someone wants to volunteer on that one, and let's say there's a project to, a grant project that requires some sort of special expertise, and they want to commit a few months just for that. Oh, yay, the lights are on.
Let there be light.
Yes.
Yep.
We're lost without our borough clerk here tonight, and we're not meeting in an official capacity. The design committee, I know there's an architect living across the street from me. I've talked to him about, this would be a great way for you to get involved. His kids are going off to college. He hasn't been involved previously that I know of. So, he could lend his expertise if there's a streetscape project. So we don't expect, to suck the life out of people. We want to have a very organized way of doing this.
But you don't need special skills to be involved. We want everybody to be involved.
Yeah, and I gave some specific examples, but everyone can be involved.
It's a great question. Thank you for that. Yes.
To follow up on that question, where can we get a list of the kinds of opportunities, volunteer opportunities or volunteer abilities so that we could decide whether or not that's something that we would want to do?
Another great question. I think we need to incorporate soon.
Yeah,
Allison, can you answer that?
Well, one way you can learn about it, probably go to the website now. If you go to the Main Street, they just renamed themselves to call themselves Main Street America. And actually, I'll just put the link up on the website, or Bobby will. And they talk about the 4 committees and the kind of work that they do, and it gives a lot of background about this process. But that will really be happen more once the executive director is hired, which the board of directors would do. So a lot of this stuff is kind of early, but they're all good questions.
But we're hoping that you'll go onto the website, get your contact information to us, so that when the executive director is in place, they can reach out for you and know you're there.
And that'll be sometime towards the end of the summer. We hope to have an executive director.
And I think the link I just mentioned is on the website already, because I think they sent, I don't remember.
Yes, sir.
My name is Jerry Yaros. I've been a resident in Dutchess for over 50 years. And Chris skipped over the funding a little bit, the municipal part of the funding. How is that going to affect some taxpayers in this town?
I'm not aware that it affects residents at all. Do you want to answer that?
The anticipation is it will not affect the tax rate at all. In fact, there's money from the sale of the Pearl Street parking lot, which will provide an initial source. In the longer term, will be parking authority money, not coming from an addition to the tax rate.
So in other words, if you're thinking that that the Borough Council is going to pass a tax increase on your home values to cover this, that is not the case. And in fact, residents, usually see in these types of towns, hopefully see their home values rise as the business sector improves.
Well, home values has nothing to do with the tax increase.
Right.
I got another question too. How does this conflict with the Chamber of Commerce?
We don't think it conflicts. Do you want to take that, Dottie, as president?
We're very excited about the partnership. And, we are volunteers, and we've done about as much as we can to bring events to town based upon just what we have here in our limited budget and resources. This is big time, and so we can help enhance what the Alliance is going to do. And hopefully, with a bid, we're going to be rocking and rolling. I think it'll be great.
We hope. Thank you. All great questions. Yes, sir.
My name is Tom Puglisi. My wife is here. We've been residents for 40 years in Metuchen. It's a nice package that we saw, but you have 10 items that have to be delivered by the executive director. Do you have any measurements, metrics for that person to be able to live up to them over a period of time?
The experience that we've seen in the other communities, we've had...
Do you expect to see flowers rise in the middle of the town immediately or at a certain point? Or when do you know that he's doing his job? And when do you know that he's done?
He or she or him.
Okay, and then, yeah, I'm sorry. And then, if you're going to talk about this, since the borough provides nearly $1 million to the process over a period of time, it is borough money. Will there be any financial reporting on that basically shows what the proper...
Parking authority does not.
Yes.
My name is Anita Puglisi, as my husband just said. And the question I have is, I've been here 40 years. I used to be able to go downtown in Metuchen, get my shoes, get my clothing, get everything there. I didn't even have to leave town. Now some of the shop owners have remained, but they've moved because their rents it's exuberant what they're paying. Is there going to be a committee that will be able to work with the people that own these properties? I mean, we have empty shops, they can't be rented because the rents are so high.
Eric, did you want to do that?
Obviously, I don't think the problem is the rents are too high, but that businesses fail for many reasons, not always because of rent. But your question was about the executive director does work with the property owners and the potential businesses to bring them together. The executive director has no power to require a landlord to sign a lease with a tenant. This is not a condemnation. This is bringing people together and creating opportunities. So in Somerville, for instance, I have property there, and there's a improvement district in place. They brought me a couple of tenants. We worked something out, and they moved in. They've been wonderful tenants. And the executive director worked through that process to make sure that it kept moving forward so that the landlord and the tenant worked together and came up with a lease. But obviously, if you have a landlord who is recalcitrant and for whatever reason, the executive director has persuasion but not a hammer.
And to follow on that, can you follow up with the story you told last week on Tuesday about how that process works in Metuchen when you do have an empty store without a management association and an executive director?
Right. So in Somerville, I was saying I have an arcade, Yestercades. It's been a wonderful tenant, has brought in a tremendous amount of people to Somerville, and that was a tenant who initially came to the Downtown Alliance, and the Downtown Alliance came and said, your building is a perfect spot. They've just created a plaza, and this is a spot for them, and it's worked out wonderfully. In Metuchen, I have Cafe Vaza and Tete, both of which just closed in the downtown district. I have nobody to call like that. I have nobody bringing me tenants in the same way. I have brokers. That's not the same thing as having a downtown organization which is looking out, trying to bring in complementary businesses that work well with the rest of the downtown district.
Great questions. Yes, sir.
My name is Karen Alexander. We've been in town about 11 years. And I'm curious in terms of the complementary mix in downtown and setting that recipe and how those targets are established, and then sort of how is it, to go back to your point, what's the metric on measuring that? My concept of what a nice downtown is might not be your concept of a nice downtown. And how do you find that place?
Well, there's going to be a board that runs the Metuchen Downtown Alliance, and so that board is going to create the direction and make those type of determinations. Plus, you have the 4 committees who have input as well.
Well, more than that, we kind of get an assessment from Main Street, New Jersey. They take a look at what we have to offer, what we could offer, and what would complement, using that term, what would complement what we currently have. Get input from the community. I mean, there have been a couple half-hearted attempts at surveying the community as to what they'd like to see, but that's more of a wish list than anything else, right? But there's real technical advice and assistance that we would get. And when I say we, I'm not just talking about the stakeholders, I'm talking about the community, all right? Because after all, we are in this, whether we succeed or not. We get that technical assistance. And these are people who have done this. Main Street, New Jersey program has been around for 25 years. I was there in 1990 to try to bring Main Street, New Jersey to Metuchen in the first class, and we didn't get anywhere close to this far. And we tried it again 3 years later. But that's, I'm sorry to belabor the point, that's the answer to your question, is we get that technical assistance from Main Street, New Jersey and their resources to help us examine and see what the complementary uses are going to be.
So what we have, what's missing, what would fit.
Right,
And what would work for our community, for our demographic, so to speak?
and not only identifying it, but actually having someone who works to make that happen. So it's one thing, people come up to me and say, I'd love to have X kind of store, but they don't open up themselves, and there's nobody out there to bring that business in. The idea is now we have somebody to take that role.
The other thing I want to mention is that the trainings that Main Street New Jersey has, I think there's 4 or 6 coming up this year. They're free and open to anyone in Metuchen who has a business or even a resident. Jeff will take if you're interested. There's the national conference, which is in Wisconsin, I think in May this year, and Ruchir went to the one in Atlanta last year. And so there's a lot of learning that goes on there and a lot of presentations. Some of the presentations from Atlanta are online. I don't know how much sense they make without the speaking points. The other thing about figuring out what the best mix is that some towns, decide, what, it's all about building on your asset, and the Main Street organization is based on historic preservation, and Nancy Zerbe can probably speak to that because she was involved in setting it up at the state level, weren't you, when it began? So, that's a factor. The arts are definitely a big factor. So all of that comes into play.
So if I may, we do have one gentleman here from Woodmont, and there will be stores in the Woodmont space. And how would you think you might be working with the Metuchen Development on?
Sure. Steve Warnekis, Senior Vice President of Development. I've been working with Metuchen for a number of years on our project. We are developing a lot of retail. We're open to suggestions. That's why I'm here, and we're happy to cooperate and try to figure out the best way to not only bring up that area, but the downtown. And we're excited to be here in Metuchen.
And it's in everybody's interest, and this is how it works. The Metuchen Development Alliance talks with the developer needs to field spaces, and we need to find the right kinds of complementary businesses to suggest. We'll have a mechanism starting in the fall to begin to do that. That's how it works with the dialogue.
Is there going to be a mechanism to engage landlords who are, not present? I mean, like my landlord, for instance, lives in a different state. I met him once. Been in the property for 4 years.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem all that interested.
He's going to receive a letter from us shortly, a lot of encouragement and dialogue with this, but can you handle that?
Yes, I mean, the part of the executive director's job is to reach out to somebody like that and try and get them more engaged. But in the end, if somebody, as I said, doesn't want to play, they're not being forced to play.
I just had a question too. I was just trying to understand that. What's the approximate fair market value of the entire district?
I don't know the answer to that question.
If you had a 21%, obviously the number there, so.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just not on the top of that.
Yeah. But that's a good.
Takes a lot of
Angela?
I have a question actually relating to the financials. I know that a lot of the business owners are probably upfront going to be intimidated by the fees that they'll have to contribute. So it sounds like it'll be for everyone's benefit. The example that you gave, the assessment for the property, the example, was that an average or was that just a randomly pulled recently assessed property?
Actual
As an actual store, I think it's one of the higher, and I think it's towards the higher end of assessments for that size building. But it was an actual assessment that was randomly chosen.
Okay. I was just trying to gauge because those numbers really were not that intimidating.
That was the point.
But I'm just being honest, that my fear is that you'll see it and then what if that was like one of the small, what if that was very, very small?
We try to pick a middle of the road example.
Got it.
And I think it was towards the higher end on a per square foot basis.
I'd like to bounce on Evangel's question and say if it's $275,000 to fund the project, that's an awful lot of buildings. Do we have that many buildings? I mean, it comes out to 469.
They're all listed right out there.
469? Yeah. I do have a question.
Yes.
I'm the executive director. I'm Borough. By the way, I own Secula Yoga Studio. I've been in Metuchen for 40 years. My partner has lived here for 60 years.
We're not talking inches.
We're dating ourselves. The executive director is nominated, approved by whom? I didn't.
There'll be a search.
Okay.
But it's
There's
approved by the
100
board.
of them,
Yeah.
from what I understand. There's 100 of them in the state of New Jersey.
It will take a couple, yeah.
We got that information last week. But they're, who picks the executive director?
The board.
Okay, who is on the board? The stakeholders?
Well, initially it's the stakeholders, and then it transfers over to being 4 property owners, 4 business owners, a resident, arts council representative, a borough council representative. You got the list there.
Would you like me to read it?
The Chamber of Commerce board representative and a parking authority.
Parking authority chairperson. There are some in the interim, and by that we're basically referring to the council 2016. There were some stakeholders who have indicated a willingness to start a board. But I don't think that the entire stakeholder group is going to fill out the board. So maybe
Or they don't qualify because they're not in the district.
they may not qualify.
Yeah.
So I don't see any brick and mortar businesses.
Right.
With the exception of one, which is Bashir, that
Brick and
are
mortar
all
businesses in the
stakeholders.
district. Is that what you mean? Brick and mortar businesses in the district.
That are in the district, on the stakeholders, I'm talking about the stakeholders.
Right.
There's
So
only
Actually,
one right
yeah,
now.
you have
Well,
Deb,
sorry,
and you
we're still
have
at-
Peg,
yeah,
and you have
we're
She's
Bashir.
still open for the moment, but by the time this
And we
is
have
down.
Margaret Phillips.
Right.
Yeah.
So can I clarify this for a minute? So when we initially, when the stakeholder team was formed, it was kind of like a journey that you know you have to take, but you don't know what's going to happen at the end of it. And I initially asked people to think about doing this till December 2015, right? And here we are, it's almost February. Jeff Mueller has been giving us a lot of advice, more than he probably thought he would, even though we're not a full-level Main Street organization, because he has wanted us in the program for years. I think Joanne Sabatino-Hawkinstein is still here, the head of the Development Commission. She's been talking to him for a few years about getting us in as well. So we've been on his radar for a long time, so he's been paying a lot of attention to us. When we asked him, what do we do about a board, like, how, do you start over with brand new people who haven't done all the research? He said, absolutely not. Do a transition board. But I don't think, I can't speak for all of these people who have put in all of this time and effort. You know, I don't think everyone wants to serve, you know, a full term. So the idea is that there would be a transition board, and then there would be elections at the end of 2016, beginning of 2017.
Well, it was actually a transition. Part of the stakeholder group would serve through 2016, part would serve through 2017, and part would serve through 2018. So the full transition would happen in 2019, but it would not happen all of a sudden, which again is what Jeff Bueller from the state recommended. He said if you have suddenly everybody gone, there's no history, there's no feel for what's going on. You need to integrate people more gradually.
And he will also come and do a board training for people. Yeah.
That's one of the nice things, all the training you get. Like the committee chairs will have training, the volunteers will have training, the board will have training, and it's free, which is remarkable, yes.
So when you're working on the assessments, are you going to pull out any residential that may be above the businesses and calculating the value of that building?
No, all the buildings are included unless they're single-family homes or multifamily, solely multifamily of less than 4.
Okay, over here, Ken.
Eric, would you explain how the property owners are going to be billed? Is the town billing us on the taxes, or are we making the checks payable to the town? Are we making it payable to the association? How does that work?
It does work where it goes to town. So I'm not sure how we've done in Metuchen. The way it's done in Morristown and Somerville is there's a second tax bill that you receive. And at the same time that your taxes are due, you also pay the second bill to the town, and the town collects the money and turns it over to the association.
And 100% of that goes to the association?
Yes.
It's not going to be withheld by the town of Borough.
Nothing gets
Any
withheld.
other means.
Exactly. 100% gets turned over,
Okay, and there'll be a full accountability on that.
of course.
Yes.
For the towns that have already gone through the program, like Somerville, like Cranford, what media have they used to promote the downtown revitalization? And does Metuchen's plan include potentially radio, television? Like, what exactly are we saying to people who are outside of this immediate area how awesome we are? And how are we saying it?
I don't know the answer, honestly, on Somerville and Morristown and what they've done. And I think it's for the executive director and board to make a determination. I'd love to see a radio, I'd love to see television, but ultimately you're putting an organization together, and I would hope that you'd have those means as well as social media. But that's not something that the stakeholder group can decide on its own.
I know that
And it probably will
one of the
vary
things-
over time.
I know that one of the things that those towns do is paid advertising. So if you open up the Star Ledger or New Jersey Monthly and you see a big spread that says, come to our town this weekend, and it's 2 pages, and it costs, 6 figures or whatever, it may not be 6 figures, but a lot of money, that's what your marketing budget. So that's part of it. And we do have, we probably have people in this town with tons of media contacts, I'm sure. I can think of 3 right off the top of my head, so.
Yes, sir.
We talked a little bit about how the interaction between the Alliance and the Chamber of Commerce. During the presentation, we were looking at the graph where it showed where the different funding was coming from, and we talked about budget-neutral projects, and an example was given as the farmers market, which is something that's already existing. So what is the relationship between like the June Bug and the farmers market and these other events that are already existing and the Alliance? Does the Alliance take that over, or?
I think that's all to be determined, because there's a lot to be done. And what the Alliance really needs to work on is business recruitment, business retention, and the public space. I think that's going to be the initial focus. Does anyone else? Yeah. Everything to be worked out.
Some of our conversations with different communities, we asked about the relationship with the Chamber of Commerce. Some communities have their own Chamber of Commerce. Other communities like Red Bank have a regional Chamber of Commerce, the Greater Monmouth County Chamber of Commerce. In some of the instances, that Chamber of Commerce may have been having a difficult time managing everything on their plate, and so the downtown management organization took over some of the activities just to make it a little bit easier on the chamber. Now, I'm not suggesting that's what happens here in Metuchen. I'm giving you one example of how cooperation and partnership between the two entities made both entities stronger, because that particular chamber found itself overextended and promised too much, and you couldn't do a good job, and the management organization took some of it. What the chamber wound up with was a stronger organization, better events as a result of it, and then together they were able to add.
It's all to be determined.
That's just one example.
We have our new executive director from the chamber just walked in, Dr. Larry McConnell.
I was actually upstairs for a long time.
Isn't another meeting. But do you want to take that question a little bit? He's been on the job for 2.5 weeks.
He's a quick learner. Well, look, what we're all talking about here is one word, really, prosperity. That's what we all want, prosperity to come to Metuchen. I was here, obviously, in the fabled old days, and now in the new days ahead, we want that. Prosperity these days in the 21st century comes down to another key word, people. And what we're talking about, that got to get people here. When they come, they got to live, they got to play, they got to work, they got to raise families, they got to do all this fun stuff. That is part of a prosperous community. And third P in the pot is promotion publicity. We've been talking about that. It's essential. You got to tell your story, because there are 564 other municipalities in New Jersey that are also telling their story about how great they are. And so it may actually be great, as we've seen in the Montclair video. I should win some kind of award at the Oscars. That's pretty well done. We can do better, I know, because we've got really good video talent here. So it comes down to that. You want prosperity, you got to have the people. Get the people, you got to have the promotion. And that's what the Chamber's been doing here since 1950, now in our 66th year. Main Street's been doing it all over the country for 2 or 3 decades. And basically, the more arms you got to wrestle with, you're going to get that prosperity. So that's what it really comes down to. And everybody here is involved also. I don't know where everybody is at this point on you know, really going pro for the Main Street or not so pro, but it really is going to take a village to raise a village, and that's what we're doing here. So all suggestions, all help, all volunteers. This is a great place. I live in Woodbridge, incidentally. And I was at the Woodbridge Chamber of Commerce today. It was the mayor's state of the township. I used to work for several mayors in Woodbridge, and it has grown every year. It used to be just the kind of way the mayor sort of talked about his political ambitions. Now it is a vision for the community. And you wouldn't believe what's going on in Woodbridge. Of course, you've got 100,000 people. They have massive corporations. They're feeding into their tax base. But when it all comes down to it, that 40-minute speech Mayor McCormick made, it came down to prosperity, the people, and the services they're going to get, and the promotion to tell that story of Woodbridge. So we're all in this together, and I think we've got some great opportunities. And Metuchen Main Street is going to be an incredible addition to this arsenal of getting what we need to have here.
So, you got the message? We've got a strong partnership here. Nancy.
Hi, Nancy Jessen, Victorian Office Rentals. I'm a lifelong member of Metuchen, or resident of Metuchen. Maybe I shouldn't, but I like pizza and I like Chinese food. And I like Metuchen. And I think it's a great town. I think, you know, there's people here that have already said they want to volunteer. I think it's the brainy borough. And I think we have a lot of great institutions here that have all come through volunteer efforts. And quite frankly, I see this as a bureaucracy. I just see it as, you know, more taxes. I don't think it's easy. It's not easier to rent a building when you raise the rents, okay? The economy is changing, the internet's changing everything. I think you need to let business owners make their own decisions and come up with what they think is the best way to meet the demands of the marketplace. And I love the Brady Borough, and I just hope everybody will continue to volunteer. And I just think that that's where our strength is.
And thank you for that, because one of the fears in something like this, and it's working with people said, this is maybe a bureaucracy that could happen. And there's only one way to make that not happen, is to have a strong board of directors that's made up of the kind of group that we have here, and really pray that they will and stay independent, and that it will not be a bureaucracy. Because we will operate under the Main Street guidelines, and also be assessed and audited by Main Street. We have a little buffer there, and the biggest buffer is really the volunteer committees and the trustees. So that is a challenge. I mean, I'm right with you. I see a group come together, I wonder, well, who's got the power, what's the bureaucracy? It could happen. It hasn't happened yet. I can tell you that in all my years of work and being on various teams and also building teams in various corporations, I have never, ever in my life worked with 14 people who seem to have no agenda other than make Metuchen great. We have Republicans, we have Democrats, we have older people, we have younger people, and there is, you know, and there's discussion, and there's, oh, I don't see it that way, this way, back and forth, and it all works out, and you'll have a drink, and it's great. I have never worked in a team like this, and I pray that it will continue. By having this phased change of the stakeholders of the fourth out the next year, fourth out or third out, whatever, we'll keep this culture of openness and transparency. And we have to challenge ourselves to not become a bureaucracy, or we'll fail. You're absolutely right. I'm grateful for you for raising that, Nancy. Thank you. Yes?
I forgot to introduce myself before. I'm Aaron Mandel. I've only been here a year and a half, and I've just been a property owner for less than half a year. At your introductory speech, or maybe you said there's a problem here. And I was wondering if you could elaborate on why you feel the need. What is the problem? Do we have higher vacancy rates? Because I don't have that history to know what. To me, it looks like.
Let's tell them the problem, guys. What's the problem here? What's the problem? Empty stores. Empty stores. What else is the problem? Rents are too high. Rents are too high. What else is the problem? Rents are too high. Parking is miserable. What else is wrong? Right? Rents are high. Yes. Cleanliness maintenance. Right. Yes.
Not a great variety.
Not a great variety. Absolutely not.
It looks kind of dumpy.
Yeah. Right here in River City. Does it answer your question? Please don't move. Please stay. Stay right here.
For the businesses, rent actually too low. So
you can't make money in a business.
foot traffic.
We need foot traffic, absolutely.
I have a question. Coming from a point of view.
Can you all hear?
Point of view in the educational aspects, since I'm part of, my children are part of, they go to high school and enter school, and I am volunteer in all facets. How the children, they undergo their sports and they're going to the mall, a big attraction to have them stay. They love what's at school. But I would love to have an arcade or something, a place where these kids, an educational aspect, the arts is coming back. I just see the education piece.
You know, you're so right. I was talking with Kathy Glutz the other day, who's principal of our middle school, and I said, what is the biggest problem you have with the middle school kids? I thought it'd be a health problem, maybe some immigrant kids, lower socioeconomic kids not have come to school with food or whatever. You know what it was? Technology is the problem. They all have this, and it's modeled by their parents, and they all have short attention spans. Wouldn't it be great in Metuchen to have a place where kids could go, where they could talk? She said they don't talk to each other. They sit in a group and they text each other. And so they don't have skills in conflict resolution, peer-to-peer discussion. We as a community can find a way to help those kids. Maybe that's something we do for part of our downtown.
The Main Street program actually has a youth volunteers and program built into it. So, I'm sorry?
When somebody shows
Does somebody get water? Okay, but yeah, there are programs designed for kids in this.
Yeah, President Brian Reese, I'm in town. Looks like the town will be taking $600,000 of its money, the asset from the sale of the Pearl Street parking lot, to invest in it. Has there been any discussion by the town about alternatives and whether that's the best way to spend the money, that kind of thing? Because I think in terms of credibility and transparency, I'm not a shop owner guy, I'm a homeowner, a taxpayer. I'm not clear how the finances work with the parking authority. I'm not sure how the rents work or how the funding works. But as a person who's observed downtown for a lot of years, business owners who've gone out of business told me they have had problems with gouging rents from the landlords. Maintenance on the buildings is subpar, the fronts of it, and that's the responsibility of the property owner. Things like the train station parking lot looked like hell until recently. DPW went and did some work and it looks really great now. Fred did a great job on that. But why did it take years to get around to it? So, to me, I think the proposal might be more credible if we had a little more transparency about the money involved and who's coming up how much and who's going to fix the problems. We got these buildings by Friendly's been sitting vacant for years. What's going to happen with that? So for us to put up, it's a town asset. I mean, I heard that we're not going to have an increase in our homeowners' taxes at this time, but it is a public asset that belongs to the people in Metuchen, I think. Right. So there would be alternative ways to spend it. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I think there should be a discussion and transparency, and I don't see transparency on the money. And if we're going to be partners in a business undertaking, putting up our money primarily first, we'd have some transparency. So we're being asked to be partners in a business. And so I'd like to hear some more about that at either in this meeting or in future meetings, because right now I don't have transparency on the funding and the responsibility.
I think it's a totally, absolute, fantastic question. I don't know if we should answer it.
But I think it's important before people are asked to, commit $600,000 to a fund.
I'd like to see what, Eric, do you have any window on alternative uses of that money or that kind of thing? Well, I don't think we do.
Can I answer part of your question? So parking authorities in other towns and municipalities across New Jersey have a role in investing in their downtown. Up until now, we have not used our parking authority in that manner. So one of the big complaints that we hear is that people can't find a place to park. And we have done at least Mr. Massey, 2 parking studies, 1 parking study that shows that it's not really not enough parking, but people can't find the parking. So you probably don't remember it, but when we put it up, you'll see it. When there was a slide that said learning from other towns, one of the logos was from Maplewood, from the Springfield Avenue district, which is kind of like they call themselves the ugly stepchild of Maplewood because everyone thinks that Maplewood is the cute downtown, but there's actually another part of Maplewood that has its own management organization. And on their website, they have a parking map, and all of the towns that do this have wayfinding and signage. So one of the investments of the parking authority money will be to improve our parking, the parking facility, well, that's separate, but showing people how they can park if they're having an event, doing a facility improvement like that. So that's one use of the parking authority money, to invest in the town to get people to come here. And, come to a borough council meeting if you have more questions.
And also typically,
I didn't see that item as one of the things that MDA, that the executive director has to do. I didn't see it on there.
What is that?
As far as improving the parking.
Oh, she was just, Allison was just describing.
That's just,
the parking.
the executive director's job is so big, there is no way that we could possibly list it all on that
So
slide.
then that problem isn't solved right there. Or is he going to do that?
Yes, it will be a joint effort.
That's one of his metrics.
And Jeff Bueller and the state will help recruit that person, and there's also, measurements of success for that job in all the materials that we have.
and typically, in all of the successful downtown organizations, at least 30% of the budget came from the town, in recognition of the fact that a thriving downtown creates a thriving community.
But this issue of transparency, we should think about how, because I don't understand it myself, but we should figure out how to make it transparent.
To a borough council meeting,
Do you know
there are alternatives about the money, but we're here talking about using our money. We're not going to talk about our money. It's like a foregone conclusion that the public's going to tell me up 600 grand.
It's not all, it's over time, and I guess to people who do have questions for other uses of the money, I mean, what else would you see it on? I mean, you could think of any number of things that would be great.
I think the question is just wanting the transparency of the
Right.
thought, and I think it's worthy of thinking and how to respond to that transparency.
Well, that's right. I mean, it hasn't been,
Try to figure it out.
there has been no discussion of an alternate.
Right, so let's just hold that thought and come back to that.
Can I also
City's
point
got
that
it.
is at a council meeting, because that's where they'd be having the resolution, so that's what public discussion would be, is at the council meeting for that transparency.
But as of now, there's been no discussion.
But she said this is going to come up for a vote, and that's why that transparency.
I'm just trying to figure out where we are today.
Remember something, we are bringing a proposal for a downtown management organization, a proposal for how to structure it, how to operate it, how to fund it. It's a proposal, okay? A proposal that we believe very strongly in. The ultimate decision, which leads to the transparency that you're asking about, will rest in public discussion with borough government. And if there are better ideas or other ideas on how to spend this windfall that we have from the sale of Grove Street Park, those things, you can certainly entertain those. We live in a community, we have beautiful homes, beautiful neighborhoods, we have an outstanding school district, we have a quaint downtown, we have a community that cares about. I'm 61 years old. I help operate a 63-year-old family business. The one thing that needs improvement is our central business district. The central business district thrives, the rest of the community thrives. It's a proven fact.
Let's go on to some of the other questions. People have had their hands up for people haven't spoken.
Just where the current parking money funds go? They said they're going to redirect it. Where does the parking money go now?
Allison, do you know?
You said you're going to redirect it into signage and all that new way finding stuff. What's it used for now?
Right now, the parking authority is separate, and they make an annual contribution to the borough every year.
The council decides where that's in.
Right.
Okay, good. Oh, yes.
So we've talked about the support from local government financially. How about support in things like consistent zoning with what's happening on the BID and
things like dealing with the vacancy, like somebody mentioned the vacancy by Friendlies. Local government's going to need to support that as well, otherwise
Can I answer that?
we're not necessarily working
Right,
together.
so the bid has nothing to do with zoning, nor does the Downtown Alliance.
Right,
So-
that's why we need
right.
the local government.
Right. So the council's powers for zoning doesn't change. The Friendly's building that you're talking about is actually in a court dispute between the previous owner and someone who tried to buy it, and I can't really speak to it more than that because I don't really know much more about it than that, but, that's out of our hands at this point because it's in the legal system.
Any other questions related to the Metuchen Development Alliance? Oh, yes, sir.
I don't know how to phrase this question, but most of the activities of the town, my business happens to be on the other side of the tracks. I'd like to hear somebody speak to that side of the tracks because I have brick and mortar, there's lollipop land. You're not going to tax the post office. The Forum Theater, we know, can't afford to be taxed anymore. You've got Hay and Company, the gas station, I guess. I don't know if it goes to Gardenia's or not. But can you tell me what that side of town will benefit, since most of the activities that take place in town are on the other side of the tracks?
Well, I get that one. I think that the Forum Theater is a tremendous asset which is not being utilized today. And my hope is that that will become a major attraction for Metuchen.
But how are we going to bail him out? We've got to bail the guy out and help him. He's got to get out of, something's got to happen. He's on the
Something's going to
market.
happen.
Something's going to happen.
I agree with you. But I think that itself is such a major piece in trying to bring a cultural element to the town that has to be within the
I
district.
absolutely agree, but I'm saying that most of the activities in town take place on the other side. But if you look at the Jessen's property, he's basically a school, he's got a couple of attorneys, myself, Lollipop Land, a lot of psychologists, psychiatrists in there. So what will this benefit to my business? And how's it going to benefit my business? And I understand and I agree with you wholeheartedly. Something has to be done with the Forum Theater because I think that is the hub of our city. That I should say the borough. I'm sorry. It's the hub of our borough. But all the activities happen under the tracks.
But that needs to change.
I don't see what you're going to bring up there. That's what I'm trying to say.
And it's our hope that this process will help the Forum Theater, that it will make it eligible for, grants, sponsorship, something. Because something has to happen. I don't think that we're all here tonight because we think that the status quo is acceptable, right? I mean, you didn't leave your houses tonight and climb over mountains of snow to get here when it's 25 degrees because you all think that everything is great, right? You're here for a reason. And so this discussion is about trying to move everything forward, to figure out what we can do next to move everything forward, right? And to forget about what happened in the past and to figure out what our next steps are. So yes, is there as much activity in front of your store and in front of Lollipop Land as I would like, or are people running back and forth from the Forum Theater to Lollipop Land as I would like? No. But if we do nothing, that will never happen, right? If we do nothing, we will be in the same place 10 years from now that we are in today. And complain.
The MDA lines are drawn basically with the idea of changing if you need to change.
Right.
And as you go through the learning process, you may find that those lines aren't exactly what you want. That's
So-
going to take a period of time.
So I'll share with you
You
one
got to
of the
start with a
discussions.
nucleus and work with it.
Right. So my original idea, and this is my personal idea for what I was originally thinking when we thought about this, was that I thought that the district should be much bigger. I thought, let's go all in, right? But it was only through those interviews with the other executive directors from the other towns, and then talking to the chamber, and Ro, you were in the very first meeting we had in his salon, when we talked to people, and we were, let's get it right the first time, don't bite off more than you can chew, right? And show your success first in a smaller area, and then move outward. But, but I think to make it too small and to cut people off, then you will hear the opposite complaint from maybe people who aren't here tonight who are saying, why didn't you include me? I wanted to be included. And I bet we will still hear that from other parts of town. Why aren't you included in this process? So,
What you've done is you made it a financeable item, basically.
Right.
A budgetable figure.
To make
that
it
you can
financially
with.
work.
I mean, you may end up having 2 executive directors.
No.
I'm just saying, it's just that you're in flux.
We're not in flux, we're at the beginning. So Woodbridge is big enough that they have multiple districts. Maplewood is big enough that they have multiple districts. I don't ever see Metuchen having more than one district. I see us having, a contiguous squiggle.
A squiggle, maybe.
I don't see us ever having more than one district. We're only 2.7 square miles or something. We're not Woodbridge, we're not Metuchen. We have to sell what we are. And the problem is, for years, we have not been selling what we are and what we can be. And again, we didn't all leave our houses tonight because we're all happy.
I think our time has come to do everything. Our time has come with all the development that's going on.
Right.
This is perfect. I mean, our time has come. We tried to develop growth for 40 years.
And now we all sing.
I just said 30 years ago, there were developing groceries then, and now finally something's getting done, and it just seems like let's just go.
Right. So we tried twice before and it didn't work. If it doesn't work this time, we will have no one to blame but ourselves.
Not me.
Not me.
For those of you who were at the meeting we had with Jeff Bueller from Main Street, New Jersey back in March, a lot of you were there, right? And I had a bit of an epiphany. If you look at the community as it is right now, our community has changed dramatically in the past decade. Okay? A lot of my parents' generation retired, cashed in. We have a lot of new families coming into Metuchen. By my estimation, at least 30%, maybe more, 35% turnover in families coming into Metuchen. It was a wonderful thing for a couple of reasons. Everybody remembers how overheated the real estate market was, right? And a lot of folks who would have located in other communities never gave Metuchen a second thought. All of a sudden discovered Metuchen because the price of admission wasn't up in the stratosphere. By price of admission, I mean the cost of housing. And they discovered what we already knew about the best kept secret in central New Jersey. Right? So we have a wonderful influx of a lot of families who are raising families, just like a lot of us remember. We have borough government that is solidly behind this project. We have big corporations who are making significant investments in our community. And as Anthony just said, the time is now. All right? We have a lot of interesting people. We have interested people. We have a lot of talent. And we have, this is the best opportunity that I've seen in 25 years as far as us making some real progress with, to speak, Pugliese, that's your name?
Yeah.
Right? I remember those days, right, where you can get anything you wanted downtown. And the whole world changed, right? We had
But
the
times
malls.
have changed. You have different ethnic groups and they need different things.
It's not even that. I mean, how many people sit in their fuzzy slippers and a cup of coffee and buy some chocolate? However,
The neighbors.
I'm a cheerleader for this because we've seen it. It's been demonstrated. Jan mentioned at the beginning of her remarks, 25 years of proven success of using what is the Main Street America program, Main Street New Jersey program. It's worked in communities all over the state of New Jersey. There's no reason why we're rolling up our sleeves, a bit of hard work, and being dedicated that it can't work here.
And the other point I'd like to make is that you mentioned change. Change is inevitable whether we do something or not. The difference is whether we manage it. So we can sit back and let each individual business decide for themselves how they want to operate. And then we will continue along the path that we have always gone along, each individual business deciding what they want to do. By doing that, the change that we've all seen is going to happen regardless. internet shopping, drones dropping packages over our house, anything you can think of. The difference is that with a plan in place, you can manage the change and stay ahead of it. If you don't manage the change, it doesn't mean that change is not going to happen. It's going to happen, it's just going to roll right over you. And I don't mean to get heated, I'm just passionate.
I'm aware that it's 5 after 9 and people are working long days and look kind of tired. Thank you very much for coming, and please.
Oh God, my knees.